Welcome back to Askewed Reviews, and we have another viewer request today, and it is for the 1994 film Cabin Boy. Here is your trivia question for today. What is the name of the ship in the film? The answer will be at the end of this episode. So our film starts off at the Stephen Wood Finishing School for Young Men, where we get to meet our main character, Nathaniel Mayweather, who just so happens to be a pompous, entitled jerk. He is just horrible and nasty to everyone around him, including his fellow students, his teachers, and even his headmaster. But thankfully, the finishing school no longer has to deal with him, as he has graduated and is now going to be on his way to meet his father in Hawaii, where he will help run the hotel industry that they are in charge of. Now, while on his way to the Queen Catherine, the ship that will take him to Hawaii, he continues to be a jerk and a nuisance to everyone around him. So, someone that he runs into in the local town decides to notify him where he can find the ship. He is, of course, given bad directions on purpose and winds up on the wrong boat. So Nathaniel is comfortably sleeping as the ship leaves the docks, and it's only once the drunken captain eventually makes his way back to his room that he has a rude awakening. Captain Graybar, initially thinking that Nathaniel is a stowaway, finally realizes that he's just a moron and tells him that he will have to work along with his crew and then possibly they will give him a ride to Hawaii. There does end up being many dangers along the journey, including storms, a half man, half shark, hallucinations, ice monsters, a seductress with multiple arms, and even a giant. Also, along the way, the crew ends up running into a woman that's swimming by herself out in the ocean named Trina, who ends up joining them, and Nathaniel ends up having a bit of a crush on her. So, throughout all of these adventures, will Nathaniel still stay a twerp, or will he learn to become a man? And of course, the more important question, can the crew survive all of the dangers that Nathaniel brings to them? This movie was originally supposed to be directed by Tim Burton, but he decided to just stay on as producer as he was offered the option of being able to direct Ed Wood instead. Now, Burton did actually design the concept for what the floating cupcake would look like, so they did keep that in. The director of the film then became Adam Resnick, who was good friends with Chris Elliott. In fact, not only did they rewrite the script, the two of them originally worked together as writers on the Late Night with David Letterman talk show. There are actually quite a few connections to talk shows in this movie, including the character of Kenny being played by Andy Richter, who is a longtime sidekick for Conan O'Brien on his talk show. By the way, this is also Andy Richter's feature film debut. There's also Ricky Lake, who had her own talk show and appears as the figurehead of the ship in this movie. And even David Letterman himself makes a cameo as the old salt from the fishing village. Although Letterman does not actually appear under his real name, he appears under the name Earl Hofert, which apparently is an inside joke. Before going with Letterman, there was actually quite a few other actors that were up for the role of Old Salt, including Jack Lemmon, Martin Short, Steve Martin, Albert Brooks, Alec Baldwin, and Tom Hanks. The character of Mulligan is played by Mike Starr, but originally they offered it to Bill Murray. They were hoping he would join as his brother Brian Doyle Murray was already in as the character of Skunk. I do find it funny as it appears that Tim Burton did manage to sneak Bill Murray away, as Murray does appear in Ed Wood instead of Cabin Boy. Russ Tamblyn played the character of Chalky, the half man, half shark in this movie. He also played the character of Riff in West Side Story, which of course allows me to make the terrible joke of the fact that he was both a jet and a shark. What I find interesting is that the character of Chalky ends up being one of the most popular things from this movie. Here's some examples. Hip hop producer Dan Nakamura has actually named his publishing company Sharkman Songs after Chalky. Also, the band A Static Lullaby actually has a song called Half Man, Half Shark Equals One Complete Gentleman, which is actually a line from the movie. Jim Cummings, who is probably one of the most well known voiceover actors, did the voice for the floating cupcake. And this was actually one of 6 times that he's voiced a character in a live action movie. So, as of this video, those 6 movies are The Garbage Pail Kids, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Cabin Boy, Babe, Pig in the City, Small Soldiers, and Christopher Robin. The area on the map known as Hell's Bucket is supposed to be a play on the Bermuda Triangle. The entire movie was filmed in California and almost exclusively on sound stages. So, just a random question I have for everyone out there: if you have watched this movie in the past, do you ever quote it? Because for me, I almost on a consistent basis quote at least one line from this movie. Almost any time that I finish taking a shower, use the bathroom, or finish certain activities, I will quote the line, "These pipes are clean." Does anyone else out there do that, or am I alone here? So, when it comes to the film Cabin Boy, I definitely feel this is an underrated comedy that never got the amount of praise that it deserved because it is really funny, in my opinion. So, if you haven't seen it before, definitely check it out. And I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. Now, if you did enjoy this movie and are looking for other recommendations, I would absolutely check out Almost Heroes, Eric the Viking, Yellowbeard, and Pee Wee's Big Adventure. Now it's time for the trivia question from the beginning of this episode. What is the name of the ship in the film? So, with any great vessel, it needs a great name. However, not so much this time around, as this ship is called the Filthy Whore. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews, and if there's a movie you'd like to see get a review, just mention it in the comments.